Welcome back, guys. It is Kibbs from the Brothers Geek Out podcast. I hope you guys have all been well and safe. And again, as always, massive thank you for the support on the channels and listen to the podcast. I've recently seen that we have a spike in Spain. So, guys, massive thank you for listening in on that side of the world. It's absolutely amazing to see the podcast reach out more. But, guys, I want to do a big kind of intro for somebody that's coming on today. And I want to say a massive thank you to Vincent Jerome coming on today. Thank you, bro.
So good, man. Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
No, you're absolutely welcome. You're absolutely. I love it when people like what I try and do on the podcast as well, and it's all about connecting as well. When we started this podcast, it was because I was losing contact with my brother who lived abroad. And distance always caused that separation, and then you're calling somebody every 3 days to once a week to 2 months, and then we use this platform to end up connecting with each other on a weekly basis. And then in the process, I get to geek out with other guests that come on and end up making new friends along the journey, which is absolutely amazing. So I know your work from Rob, and I know that you were in Crime Alley. Yeah. But I wanted to talk more about your journey as an actor in this industry, and you've done some amazing things already, and you're currently working on some amazing things. But just how was that for you when you first clicked to say, I want to do this?
Well, that's the thing. My journey. Okay, there's the long version and there's the short version. Okay, so I'll do the medium version. Okay, so basically, when I was always a big film person as a kid. I used to watch films religiously. There's even certain films now, if you put it on right now, I'd be able to literally do all the lines. Batman Forever is one of them. Just there's loads of them, like the 1990s Ninja Turtle movie. There's loads of them where it's just like, if you put it on now, I could just riff it off. You know what I mean? So I was always a big fan of that. And then I watched a lot of TV as a kid as well, and I became a massive fan of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And then from the age of like 9 to, I don't know, maybe even now, it's just like, definitely through my teens, I wanted to be Will Smith. That was it. But the thing is, my young mind and not having anyone that I knew in the industry, I didn't know what being Will Smith was. I was just watching it. I was like, so I'm in my head, I want to be Will Smith. Long story short, after a little dalliance with hip hop when I was a kid, I was able to do drama for the first time doing my A-levels in college, and I did it for the 2 years. And my teacher, whose name is Dan, who I can't remember his second name, so I can't find him now. I'm going to, but it's Anyway, let me hurry this up. We were leaving at that point, and he kind of pulled me to the side, and he was like, "Are you applying for drama school?" And I was like, "No," because one, I was completely ignorant. I didn't know anything about drama schools. I just assumed they were for rich people. I didn't know about grants and loans and bursaries and all those kind of things. And I didn't have a computer at that time, so I couldn't look it up. So I was completely ignorant to it. And then he gave me the talk that changed my life. And he was basically just sat me down and was like, "Yo, I think you're good. I think you got something." And that kind of, in a weird way, he empowered me to be like, "Oh, okay, right, well, this is it." And so, long story short, the course I was doing at uni, I did for about a month, maybe 2 max, and then I dropped out, and then I went to university and studied performing arts, and for 3 years at London Metropolitan University. And I always shout them out because a lot of people do go the traditional drama school route, but that's not always the way to do it. I think education is very important. But there are different ways of doing it, and sometimes people are a bit rigid. And anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's all right, dude. Take your time, no rush.
So yeah, and then when I came out of uni, I wanted to hit the ground running, so I just started applying for jobs, and I did a lot of theatre for a while, until I kind of had this moment where I was like, "Yo, why did you get into this in the first place?" It's like an epiphany moment. It's like, oh, because you wanted to do film and TV. And it took me really, really long time to realize that actually what being Will Smith was being an actor. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's the medium version of the story. Not the long, not the short, medium.
Bless you, man, bless you. I mean, with that journey, because I know it's a tough journey. How did you keep yourself motivated when it came to because theater is a whole different level of acting because you're out there, you're doing this live. Did that really embrace your encouragement in that industry? That I can do this?
That's a good question. Don't get me wrong, there is an element of fight or flight with theatre, and ultimately, if you're doing theatre, you have to always choose fight, because if you choose flight, then you look like an idiot on stage. But yeah, it did help, but at the same time, when you love something, like you really, really love something, that kind of pushes you through, even through any kind of discomfort that you may have. So yeah, I don't know if I'd say it was theatre specifically. Don't get me wrong, the purity of I'm gonna sound really wanky at the moment, but it's like
no,
the
go for
purity
it.
but the purity of the art form, you're right, it's just you and the audience and the words that are coming out. And a theatre is 100%, or can be, an actor's medium, because literally you and them. And so it does teach you things, because you are learning about the craft in a different way, in a different way than when you're working on a film or a TV show. So yeah, it kind of, I don't know if it helps you build confidence, but maybe it does, actually. Maybe you're right, because you learn more about how to delve into things, and you learn more about performance, and you have more time with characters and to play and to explore, when sometimes you don't oftentimes you don't with film and TV. You got to hit the ground running with it.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So we're going to jump into Waterloo Road right now, and you play a character called Lyndon. And what was your process into getting into something like that? Because before we jumped on this, it was like, I want to tell you my geeky side. So like, how did you kind of put that role into your process, basically?
The funny thing is, like, a lot of the time, when it's gonna make me sound crazy, but like a lot of the time when there's a role that kind of just speaks to me, I usually hear the character's voice, and or I visualize them. So Lyndon in the breakdown was presented as a particular kind of thing, and actually some of the stuff in the breakdown was actually contradictory to itself. You know, Jay-Z has a line about I'm a walking contradiction, and Lyndon felt like that a little bit in a breakdown. So I was like, this is interesting, and because they try and give you as much information as possible, to really inform your version of the character when you do an audition, that I was just like, okay, I can use that, I can use this, I can use that, I can use this. And so I just gave my take on it. But it wasn't until I got the role that I was afforded the opportunity to really dig deep and figure out, okay, so who is this guy? Who is this guy? Because obviously when you're doing, you can only invest a certain amount of time, literally, when you have an audition to do, because you literally have to do the tape, get the lines, learn them, do the tape, and send it in the next couple of days. Sometimes in the same day, depending on the production.
Okay.
So you don't have time. You just have to make your choices. Again, but once I got the role, I'm a bit reticent to say it because I haven't said it to anybody. And now I'm saying it on a podcast.
The exclusives. I'm getting the exclusives here,
You are
guys.
getting the excuses. This is what I'm saying. It's like there's certain things that I'm not going to say on BBC Breakfast, but I'm going to say here.
Yeah, bro,
Yeah,
it's
I'll
a
be
free
real with you.
platform. It is a free
I'll,
platform, and that's the
okay,
great
cool,
thing
cool,
about it.
cool.
So there's no
So I
harm in
saw,
it.
okay, sorry, so I'm kind of talking over you. I'm
No,
sorry.
no, it's all right. It's okay. Go for it, dude.
Yeah, so initially when I read it, I was like, okay, so Lyndon King is the deputy head of the school, and he has a certain way about him, and da da da. And in the breakdown, he was always a slick one. You know what I mean? Like he was always that guy. So I was like, yo, man. And I tend to go towards the darker things in my personal tastes when it comes to fictional narratives. So I was like, yo, man, maybe he's like school Luther. Do you know what I mean? Like high school Luther. And I played around with that for a bit. And then as I started doing it and really looking, and then when I came out myself a little bit or went beyond
Yeah.
Lyndon, I was, and this isn't spoilers for the show, but like I play one half of the deputy head team. So there's Lyndon King and there's Joe Casey, who is played by the excellent and hilarious and just lovely human being that is James Baxter. And obviously the head teacher is the absolute titan that is Angela Griffin. And so I was like, And Lyndon's very strict and very direct and no nonsense, but he's the kind of guy you want in your corner when your back's against the wall, because he will give it to you straight and he will get things done. And I was like, And Joe, the other deputy head, is more pastoral. He's more caring. He's more kind of not affectionate. He's more open with his emotions, and they just have two very different styles of doing things. And I was like, And Kim Campbell, when you met her in the old series, she was very much like Joe Casey, because they both have a pastoral background.
Yeah.
But in order for her to be the head of the school, she needs to be a mixture of them both. So she needs to be strict and get the job done and all the rest of that. But she still has that pastoral background and she cares about the people. So I was like, they're the DC Trinity. That's exactly who they are in my head.
Brilliant.
I was like, and this isn't me being arrogant, because I know people are going to get in the comments be, oh, he thinks he's Batman up, so I don't care. This is how I approach a character. And when you see it, I really believe you're going to see that in the first couple episodes.
Yeah.
So Joe is Superman because he's all about hope and just real, you know what I mean? He really cares and wears his heart on his sleeve and all the rest of that. Lyndon is Batman because he doesn't really care if he's liked. He'll just get the job done.
Done, yeah.
But ultimately, he does care about people, but he does it in a very rigid, kind of like methodical way of doing it. And Kim is Wonder Woman. She's Diana because she's the best of both of them. Like I personally, like people are going to come at me, I don't care. Wonder Woman is the perfect, is almost like, literally, she has all the things that Batman has, and she has all the things that Superman has, but she merged it together in this thing. Like she is a warrior, and she will fight, and she can be strategic, and she can be. We've seen in some comics like cold, like she'll take people out, but at the same time, she has that warmth and compassion for people, and so that's what Kim was. And so in my head, I was like, they're the DC Trinity. And when you see Lyndon in with the other teachers, I thought of the Justice League animated show.
Yeah.
Because that's who he is. He's Bruce.
Yeah.
That's the role that Bruce plays in those cartoons.
Yeah.
With all the different personalities and all the rest of that. That's the role that Lyndon plays in the show. And it's just like, and as I kind of got to opportunities to soften Lyndon a bit more, I was like, okay, so Lyndon is a guy from he's from Northwest London. He's from Enns, you know what I mean? He's from Harsden. He was born on the Stonebridge estate. You know what I mean? He lives in Manchester now and all these kind of things. And I was like, so he's a guy who is in a certain situation now where he has a certain level of authority and he has to be a certain way, so he has to code switch to be that.
Yeah.
But he's still a man from a certain place. So I was like, maybe we can bring in a little bit of Luke Cage in there. Do you know what I mean? Like, because he's cool,
Yeah,
and he's streetwise, but he's no nonsense. But then he's still Lyndon's a lot of different things. But that, so yeah, you're getting exclusive. That's my so if you mix Batman from the Justice League cartoons and Luke Cage, I think that's who you're gonna meet when you see Lyndon King.
that's interesting, dude. That you took that aspect into that, because that's it's amazing, because I take in comic book lore into my everyday life because of the situations that we have, and you always refer back to how would he do this and how would she do this, and it's amazing that you've put that concept together, because you don't really hear that from many people, and hearing that what their inspirations were for the roles that they play. Not many people would say, I would have inspiration from characters that I've read in the comic books I've seen on TV and things like that. So that's an amazing process, dude. Absolutely amazing. I mean,
yeah. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it's a great process. I think it's a likable thing. It's I mean, for me being in that part of the industry as well, it's just it's nice to hear that. Definitely nice to hear that.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, again, it's not. I chose this podcast to say that I should say. I chose this podcast to say this because I know that the people tuning in would appreciate that. Like, again, I'm not going to go on this morning and then say that, because they'll look at me like, you mad. But as an actor, you draw inspiration from wherever you can draw inspiration, especially like, I mean, I got the role on a Friday, and I was in Manchester workshopping certain scenes on the Tuesday. So I really didn't have a lot of time. So and when you draw on things, you draw on your own experiences, and you draw on the things that kind of make sense to you. And don't get me wrong, my inspiration for Lyndon didn't stop there, but that was the starting point for me.
It's a foundation, isn't it? It's like it's building blocks. It's amazing to hear that, because in like kind of being an actor and playing different roles, and getting to experience life in different ways, I would say, because you're actually going outside the box when you're performing. It's not. It's. I find it really hard to say, how could I do this, but in that perspective. But you can kind of elevate your skills to do something like that.
Yeah, I think as long as it's grounded in some sort of truth, I think you can pretty much do anything. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I really believe that. Like, one of the things that I have realized doing this show. Oh, hold on a second. Something's happening, and I need to. You know what I should have done? I should have.
Hold on, guys. We'll be right back. Hopefully, it will jump right back in, guys. Oh man. Vincent is back.
Yep, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Just
all right.
For a bit of clarity. This was a little bit last minute, so I'm on my phone, and someone was calling me, and I didn't put it on Do Not Disturb, and so yeah, that's my. You know what? I'm gonna 8-mile myself, because I'm not gonna act like I'm the slickest guy. Okay, things like this happen in the real world.
Exactly, it does. No doubt. But I think what. I had so I was doing an interview, like a roundtable interview with Matt Reeves, director of the Batman.
Yes, I'm aware of Matt Reeves.
And it was hilarious. It was like I'm already like I've been doing the podcast for 8 years, and it's built up a lot of confidence from a guy who never used to speak out that way, and all he did was artwork, to speaking to people on an everyday basis. It helped me and my brother come out of our dyslexia and our stutters, and it was an amazing process to do that. So Warner Brothers gave me the opportunity to jump on this roundtable, ask a couple of questions, and in the middle of me, geeking out with him because he's amazing. He'll give you the most amazing like answers in the world, and he takes forever. So you're like, I've got so much time with him. It's brilliant. But my daughter, bless her sweet soul, I couldn't find anybody to look after her, so I was like, I'm gonna multitask this. My daughter decided to come halfway through the interview, and I've got this little piano for her, and she brings the piano into the room, sets up her desk, chair, and just goes for it, dude.
Really?
She goes for it. And I'm like staring at Matt Reeves like, oh my God, please don't cut me off. Don't cut me off. It was on a Zoom call. And he was like, is that your daughter? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you multitasking? I was like, yeah. And he was like, man, I rate you, man. And I was like telling my daughter, I was like, like trying to wave her away. And it was like, just leave her. She's fine. It's perfect. Don't worry. You're a dad. You can be excused. Bless. So amazing experience. But I've had loads of things where I've never pressed record on the podcast and having to ask a guest to jump back on again. But then you're like, is it going to be the same vibe as it was before? Now I double record everything.
Oh, really? Okay.
I double record
makes
everything because I just don't want to make that mistake and getting somebody to come on again. And I can understand life is busy. It's hard to get people on, but I think after you get somebody on the first time, it's hard to get that same vibe the second time around. So I'd be like, what? Let's 100%. Try and do it a month later. Don't worry about doing it tomorrow or anything. Let's do it a month later. Vincent, so you've got a great catalogue of work that you've done, and you've actually done. I was like Wonder Woman 1984.
Yeah.
What was that like on set, bro?
That was okay, so it was great, first and foremost. Also, that anyone who's watching this is going to be like, where's he looking? And I was like, I don't know where I'm looking. I don't know if I look in the camera, or look at you, look at me. I don't know. So my eyes are all going to be all over the place. So whatever.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's going to be what it's going to be, guys. So Wonder Woman 1984, it was great. I got to work with Patty Jenkins, and she's wonderful. Just such a lovely human being. But my scene was quite insular. Do you know what I mean? It was quite like it was just me and two other actors and Patty and a crew, and it was all quite small and contained. And we were at like Warner Brothers in Livingston. Is it Livingston?
That's right.
Yeah. So we were on like a sound stage there, and we were in like this little made like bunker thing. And then when you come out of the room that we were filming in, there's like all these other sets and stuff, and it was wonderful. It was really nice. Like not no pun intended. Like I was, when I got the call, I was gassed, man. I was really, really happy because I'd been up for. Okay, I'm going to give you insight into actor's life. So I'd been up for a few other roles in some blockbusters. Literally within the space of 4 months, I went up for a few things.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my mate about it, and I was like, and I didn't hear anything. Sorry, and I was like, man, huh? Yeah, cool. And so I was like, man, like playing the numbers game, something's got to happen. But then in the back of my head, I was like, I really, really want it to be Wonder Woman, the thing that I get. Because again, I'm a comic book fan. When we talk about like me reading comics, I'm a DC fan. Do you know what I mean? Like I read more DC comics than I read Marvel comics. Like in Marvel, I'm very specific about the comics I read. And that's not because they're bad. It's just that I think that in live action or in cartoons, there's certain characters that I love. Like I'll give you an example. Like I love even though the films aren't great, I've always enjoyed watching the Fantastic Four on screen, whether it's cartoons, like whether it's the old cartoons or like the 90s ones, or even though the films weren't amazing, all of the films, even to some. I even took some stuff from the Josh Trank one. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, that could have been a good movie if you didn't see the blatant studio interference. I'm not saying
Yeah.
anything that people don't already think. So it's like,
Hmm.
it's just. But then on the page, the only time I've ever got into Fantastic Four, and this is not a diss on Fantastic Four. Maybe I shouldn't say this.
Go for it.
But
Go for
like,
it. It's fine.
it was when they did the Ultimate Fantastic Four, and
Hmm.
that that mini series that Grant Morrison did. I think was it where basically in each issue you follow a member of the Fantastic Four.
Ah, what was
What
that
was
called?
and
No, no.
was it like Jay Lee did the art for it?
Let me double check, man. JP.
Yeah, it's that. Anyway,
I think
so
it's.
yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but I remember that. The reason why I remember that, not just because Jay Lee, I think that's how you say his name, Jay Lee,
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
whatever.
Yeah, correct. You're right.
Yeah, so his art is amazing for one,
Hmm.
and two, it was I think the first comic that introduced the concept that Reed Richards might have a level of autism.
Hmm.
I think Grant Morrison was the first person. Like I may be wrong, but I think Grant Morrison was the first person to introduce that, and I was like, that's fascinating. But then also there was the image that comes up a lot recently because of Wakanda Forever
Hmm.
of Namor seducing Sue Storm, and I was like, Namor's a bad boy.
He's
Actually,
a G, bro. He's a G because he
Namor,
was
yeah, you
always
know
on it.
what?
He was
Actually,
always on it.
yeah, you know what? I realized what, as far as the two comics that I liked, what the connective tissue was,
Yeah,
and it was Namor.
yeah.
That's so strange because in the Ultimate comics,
Hmm.
he was supposed like he wasn't Mayan or
No.
Mesoamerican like he is in Wakanda Forever, but he was like Atlantis was like a sunken ancient Egypt or something like that.
That's right.
And I
Yeah,
remember
that's what
them
they went with.
doing that. I remember them doing that and thinking to myself, that is smart. And so when
Mm.
Momoa was cast as Aquaman, I was like, oh my God, please delve into the fact that he's half Hawaiian. Do you know what I mean? And they did. And obviously with Wakanda Forever, they did the thing where they are relatives or ancestors of the Mayans. And I always think
That's right.
that's good when you have cultural kind of impetus to. Anyway, I've gone totally
No,
off
no, no.
the.
It's fine because like I had this conversation recently where it makes people go Google it straight away. They want to learn more about that culture. They want to know about that history because if we're the society we live in now, if we're not told or kind of held by the hand and guided a little bit, we kind of go astray. We don't really look into things like that. I mean,
Mm.
even for me, growing up in the UK, I mean, born and raised in Tottenham, you know, my dad didn't tell me much about what my granddad went through in the Second World War as a soldier
Mm.
in Burma. I wish he told me more, but my granddad by then had already passed and I was young. And, to hear the stories about PTSD and what he did for us and the rest of it, and then being invited over to the country and then dad doing his thing, like I didn't really know much about my own culture, man. I was trying to learn about what everybody else were growing up in a multicultural kind of
Yeah,
city.
yeah,
So it's only later on after like my mid-20s, I was like, man, I need to know more about where granddad came from and what he did
mm.
for us. And, need to learn. You end up picking it up yourself. And I feel like we have
Yeah,
these platforms that we can share our thoughts on. And then you have the movies, which can pass on history as well. I know some of it is not 100%, but if
yeah,
it
yeah,
allows me to go Google more about that culture and,
yeah,
that's job done, man. I think Ryan
yeah.
Coogler did amazing on that because
Right. Oh
even
my
though
God, Ryan Coogler is he's great. He's awesome, man. Like it's funny. I know. I'll get back to the question in a second, but it's funny. I was watching Wakanda Forever, and I came out of it, and I was like, I don't think I want to play a hero.
hmm,
I don't think I want to play a hero. Like, because everyone, there's people are going to ask like, oh, if you could play any superhero, who would you play? Like, and then, you can say stuff like, oh, I play John Stewart Green Lantern, or I play Blade, or I play Luke Cage. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you kind of play the game. And I see a lot of people playing the game and being like, I'd love to be in a Marvel thing. And then, and then comicbookmovies.com says, oh, this actor says they want to do a Marvel film, and it's like every actor wants to do a Marvel film at this point.
Yeah.
And so it's not really news. No disrespect to comicbookmovie.com.
No. Of course.
Even though I do have thoughts on some of the journalism on that, but hey.
Oh man, that's
we
a
can
whole
edit
different
that
thing.
out. We can edit that out. Anyway, yes. So yeah, and I walked out of Wakanda Forever, and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to play a hero. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, I don't know why. And I'm not saying okay. One, I don't think I'm tall enough. Two, I don't think I have the right build for it. But I remember watching, is it Green Lantern First Flight? The animated film?
That's right, yeah.
And then I remember watching that and being like, Sinestro's a bad motherfucker. Sorry, I don't know if I can swear on your podcast.
No, of course you can. It's fine.
Yeah, I was like, Sinestro bad. Yeah, he's dope. And you know what the moment it was? I'm gonna do a really bad impression of that wonderful voice actor whose name I do not know. You know when Sinestro goes he just goes rogue, and the Guardians are trying to get him in check.
Yeah.
And he does the thing with the ring. And he's like, shut your mouth, you stupid little toad. I was like...
That's a good scene. It is definitely a good scene.
You're a bad man.
I think what they've done in like comic book genre in general as well, and I'm the same as you, bro. I love DC comics. I think they're better written than the Marvel ones. The Marvel ones are really mainstream, and there's only a specific, like House of M and X-Men Genesis, like some of the classic stuff I love, but at heart it's always been, I think DC have better grounded comics and grittier, and they touch on mental health, and they go through a lot more. I think Batman, with his characters and his rogues gallery, just who wouldn't want to play a villain? I love the Joker. I would play the Joker, but there's elements that we can kind of get with.
It's got to be the right one though. And as I said, I don't know why, man. Ever since then, I was just like, Sinestro had my attention, because it's like it's interesting, because when I was watching Black Adam, I was like, okay, this is kind of like Sinestro's story in a way, because Sinestro's people were like they're tyrant, and they were, Sinestro kind of took the Darth Vader route, where they had that scene in episode 2 where Padme and Anakin. I'm not even a Star Wars fan, but I've watched all the films in the hope that I would be a Star Wars fan, and it never got into my soul. But there's that scene in episode 2 where Padme and Anakin are talking of politics, and he's explaining how to keep the galaxy safe, and she's like, "You're talking about a dictatorship."
Yeah.
And it made me think about that. It's like, that's really interesting, because you think about villains like Thanos, you think about Killmonger, you think about Namor, you think about all these kind of things, and they have their points. I'm not saying I agree wholeheartedly with them, but they have their points.
My dad agreed with Thanos, bro. My dad agreed with Thanos.
You know what? But the Russo brothers did a good enough job.
Yeah.
I don't know who wrote the script. I don't think they did, so I can't give the Russo brothers credit. But in Endgame, there's that scene where they all sit, the Avengers that are left, it's all sitting around a table, and whoever's on a hologram and all the rest of that, and they're like, there's dolphins swimming in the Hudson now. The Hudson River has become less polluted because of there's less people, that dolphins are now swimming in the Hudson. And I always remembered that, and I was like, that's a really smart line, and that really does bring a different argument to things. And again, I'm not saying Thanos was right. I'm just saying there's
a point to it.
a point.
There is. It's important because, you know, their decisions are valid. I mean, Killmonger in Black Panther, I really felt for him, bro, because it's true. I really felt for him. I agreed with Killmonger. Everybody would say Kibbs, you bad man. I'm not, because he had a valid point. He has a valid point. Yeah.
To be honest with you, I love what Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler did with Killmonger.
Mm-hmm.
I wish that he like, spoilers for a really old story, I wish that he wasn't dead. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They brought him back. I don't know. But I wish he wasn't dead in Marvel Comics, so they could kind of do a bit more with him. But the thing that I really dug about that performance, well, there's lots of things I really dug about it, but his point of when they're in the throne room, when Wakabi brings him in, and T'Challa's sitting on the throne and everyone's around and they're like, who are you? Who's this? So on and so forth. And then he's like, you know, I'm is it Najaka? Son of no.
Nobu. I think I can't remember.
Yeah, my pronunciation for Wakandan names, other than the ones I put in it all the time, are bad. Like, anyway, so, but then he has the thing with T'Challa where he's like, when, you know what I mean, when our people were enslaved, where was Wakanda? Do you know what I'm saying? And it's a real thing, because when you think about that, it's like, if you are talking about this city on a hill, advanced technology, so on and so forth, and they're seeing that level of atrocity on their own ground, and they're just like, we're not going to do nothing. This is why people, for me, it's very difficult to say that Killmonger wasn't right, because Killmonger literally changed the course of T'Challa's trajectory in that film.
No, he did.
T'Challa wouldn't have done what he did if Killmonger didn't come along and bring the opposition to his thoughts. He never would have come out to the UN. He never would have done any of those things. To the point where even when he took the heart-shaped herb and he went to the ancestral plane, he had it out with his father, and he's like, "You were wrong. You were wrong, because we as a powerful nation have a responsibility to do something for people who can't do it for themselves." Do you know what I mean?
No,
so anyway.
Exactly. The best thing about jumping on a podcast and just getting to, it goes off topic, but then it's just, I feel like it's more of a natural conversation because it flows. I've listened to podcasts and I've seen podcasts where it's really like question here, answer there. It's really, it gets awkward, and it's like, I never wanted that for the podcast. I really wanted to be natural, and if the guest feels comfortable to just go for it, then you know, that's the job done, really. Because when the listeners listen in, they're like, you know, the reason why I connected to that episode was because, you know, the person went into it. Like you know, we lost. My brother's a martial artist. He just currently moved to Dubai now. He was in Singapore and Hong Kong. He's like an amateur MMA fighter, a big Bruce Lee fan, but really disciplined in what he does. And he's a big advocate when it comes to, like, you know, men's mental health and things like that. So with losing Jason David Frank last week, and we lost Kevin Conroy the week before, like, it got to him because he was the era he grew up in, was the Power Rangers era, where I was a bit older. I still watched it with them, but how much it meant to him, and he just went on, like, you know, bless him. You know, it's probably one of my best episodes because it connected to a lot of people, because you know, the guy played a huge part of a lot of people that felt like the outsider trying to belong somewhere.
Yeah, that's true. That was Tommy.
Yeah, it was Tommy, and it was just amazing. Absolutely amazing. So no, dude, don't ever say sorry for being passionate about a character or what you do, man. I always encourage it.
Yeah, I do feel like I need to go back and speak about Wonder Woman real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
My experience on it. As I said, Patty was lovely, and I managed to pick her brains about things. And I was like, what did you read in the comments? And she was like, yeah. And so I was like, what did you watch? And this isn't new news, because I think she said it in she said it in she said it in interviews that
Hmm.
she loves the George Perez era. She took a lot of influence from the George Perez era, which you probably see in the movies. But
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
it was I like, again, because I'm a DC fan, it was just great to be on the Warner Brothers lot working on a DC movie. And it's just yeah, it was just like, oh, okay, this is cool, but like I didn't have it wasn't like working on Transformers
Hmm.
for many reasons, but like so I did it. So the year I did Transformers, a few months before I did Transformers, I did a web mini series called The View,
Hmm.
which was, I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know if it's even available online anymore, but it was basically about like superpowered people in London. People doing tests and so on and so forth, and kind of like heroes in a
Mm-hmm.
way, but very kind of grounded and London based. And so we did that in the summer, and then around September, no, we did that in the spring, and then in September I got cast in Transformers, and doing the job was pretty much, it felt the same. Like I was
Yeah.
still in clothes that weren't mine, saying words that weren't my thoughts, and still doing stuff like that and running around and all that kind of stuff. But with being on a set like Transformers, it was just kind of like, I remember just looking up at the lights and being like, oh wow, they're really big. And I don't know why, but that was the thing that got me. And it's like, there's been times on Waterloo Road where we've had to have similar lights.
Yeah.
And I always just look at them, and I always remember that moment of just being like, it's the most random thing, because you got to understand, I'm a Will Smith fan. I grew up loving Will Smith, and wanted to be Will Smith. So I was on set about to be directed by the guy who made Bad Boys. Like,
Sick.
do you know what I mean?
That's a geek out moment, definitely.
I was like, yo, but again, as much as it was a geek out moment, it was the lights. I was just like, wow, those are
that's a great.
really, really big. And even that's the thing, even like I was like, oh, Bumblebee's over there. It's a car. I'm not saying hello to the car, but like, there's Bumblebee. Ah, cool, cool. And Wahlberg's over there. And I'm like, okay, there's my Wahlberg. What's up, man? What you doing? And I'm like, this is cool. But again, there was a bit of wonderment just standing still and just being on a set like that, and just being like, it's amazing, but ultimately it's not that different from doing a really like low budget web series. It's the work. You know what I mean?
That's
So
amazing.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've had my I wouldn't even say 30 seconds. It's like I've done some extra work back in the days.
Yeah.
I was actually production manager on a small kind of, I'd call it a dark comedy that I worked on coming on 10 years ago, I think. And basically one of the actors didn't turn up, and the director who wrote the story was like, Kibbs, you're the only guy with a beard here. Can you jump on and play this guy? And I was like, oh, allow it, man. You got me wearing an eye patch and shit. And I have to play this really angry sort of Punjabi dude. And I was like, oh, man, looking like the Indian Nick Fury here, man. What's going on, bro? What you doing?
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
And it was called Bubble, bless him. That ended up, playing at the Rain Dance Film Festival, and he won a couple of awards for it. It's one of my pride and joys of getting like 3 seconds on the big screen playing this angry Indian Nick Fury with an eye patch. It was hilarious, but it's a great memory. But then there was one other film that I did, which I got like, you know what? I need to find it now. It's called Legacy, and I play a guy in a restaurant washing dishes with, hold up, what's the actor's name again? Legacy. He was in Attack of the Blocks, not John Boyega.
Oh, I know the brother you talk about. Was he Firestorm?
Yes, Firestorm. Yeah.
It's so bad. I can't remember the brother's name. Man, I don't know him, but so like, I'm sorry, bro. I'm really
yeah. It's gone right out of my head as well.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that scene with him, and we were in Pine Studios, Twin Pine Studios. No, not Twin Pine Studios. What I'm talking about. Pinewood Studios, Pinewood Studios, and we were using the cafeteria area, and I got my little, again, another 3 seconds on the screen, but it's even doing that as an extra and listening to them screaming, you know, action, cut, and get back to positions. You know, hair and makeup, and I was like, I've never done this before. Anyway, let's go for it. And to be in 3 seconds of a movie, like, it's one of my greatest moments, man. It's like, it's amazing. But getting to, as you were saying, it was those little things that you look around and you're like, shit, wow. The lights, it plays a key part of what you were doing at the time. It's living in that moment, which is absolutely amazing.
But that's something I still try and do. Like, for instance, I've got like the Waterloo Road premiere tonight.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, actually, just to plug 2 things that I'm in. I mean, the guys that I made The Few with, we did a film last year called The Payday, and The Payday is having its London premiere tonight as well. But I'm in Manchester, so I can't be in 2 places at the same time. So I have to miss that one. But like, whether it is The Payday, which comes out December 5th. On digital release, so digital platforms like wherever you buy movies online, December 5th, Payday.
Awesome.
So whether it's The Payday, which was a very like independent, like low budget kind of situation where we all just kind of got it done, or it's like Transformers or Wonder Woman or even Waterloo Road, it's nice. I think being present and just being like, oh, okay. Like, I've tried to. When I got up this morning, I knew all the things I had to do. Like, after we have finished this conversation, I need to get ready because I'm gonna have to go and do press for Waterloo Road.
That's right.
And then we're doing like the red carpet, and then we're gonna do press on the red carpet, and then we're gonna go in and watch the first episode and stuff. And you know what I mean? I've seen the first episode already. And it's really good. Anyway, but like,
I can't wait, man.
Bro, it's really like, in the words of oh my God, what's Frank Lucas from American Gangster? He was a real guy, but the way Denzel played him is like, I stand by it. It's really, what we're doing in Waterloo Road is really good, really good. Anyway, with all the things that's happening and all these kind of, it's just like, I'm just trying to take moments and just breathe it in and just be like, cool, let's go. This is really cool. This is really fun. And just enjoy it, man. It's really important to remember that, you know, not to sound cliche, but like, life is precious. And I feel like I'm in a very fortunate position. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I have bad days and, you know, you don't feel as, you know, bulletproof as you'd like, but it's a it's a really exciting time, you know. So you were right.
Amazing, man. Amazing. You should be proud, bro. You should be proud. I'm excited to watch the first episode myself. You're gonna have a great night. That's amazing. But I mean, everybody has their bad days, man. We have our low days. We have our high days. You know, 100%. Yesterday was a Monday for me. It's one of my hard days, my hard days, but like, you know, at the end of it, when I come home, see the family, I know why I'm doing it. I mean, everybody has their own motivations. I mean, I'm an advocate for mental health for men, man. So, you know, we just need to talk more often. I think the hardest thing is that, you know, as we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, you know, the cultural backgrounds we were coming from, you know, how our fathers, our forefathers, our granddads were, the strictness they had, where they didn't really speak about their emotions, but it was like, it would have been a healing process to hear some of that stuff from them, you know?
Yeah, I hear you, man, because I have a similar situation in my family, but then sometimes I was lucky because as I was entering adulthood, I had like an epiphany, and I was like, and it was after I had a conversation with my dad, and I was just like, it's not his fault. Like, he doesn't know any other way to be. Like, he's not conditioned to. He had a certain relationship with his dad, and those men of that time, like my dad, loves westerns. Do you know what I mean?
Same.
He loves that. He loves Clint Eastwood. He loves that stoic lone man, squinting in the sunlight stuff. He loves that.
That's dad all the way, man. Same.
You know what I mean? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so those representations of men, don't get me wrong, I like those things, but not in the same way. My version of that would be like Logan.
Yeah, of course.
Like someone who goes through all that, but is a little bit more vulnerable rather than someone who's just not. And it's evolution, and society was different, and the expectations of men were different then.
That's right.
And some of those expectations were unrealistic in the same way that expectations of women at that time were unrealistic as well, because it's playing a role, and it's not being human and allowing for human things to happen, because that's what happens to everybody goes through things and everybody feels these emotions. So yeah, man, on that note, so bring it back to the geeky stuff, because I know someone's going to listen to this, and then someone's going to listen to something else I say later down the line. They'll be like, hold on, that doesn't make any sense. It's like, so for the longest time, my favorite superhero was Batman. For obvious reasons. Because he's Batman. You know what I mean? Like he's just super cool. Sorry to steal a line from all the Batman films and how it should have ended. But yeah, and then as I got older, I still like. Don't get me wrong. I still like Batman. I'm reading the Chip Zdarsky run at the moment, and I think it's so imaginative what he's doing with it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, Chip's going places, and that's the thing with Chip. I'll go there with him.
Yeah.
Even if I'm like, I don't know where we're going, but I'm gonna stay with it.
I'm gonna stay with it
until we've got to the end, and then I'll make my decision on how I feel. But like, yeah, so Batman was my guy for years, and I love Sean Murphy stuff.
Amazing.
Oh my god, I like literally. If I love the Murphy verse because of just all the textures and stuff he puts in.
Of course.
How he takes the lore and switches it, and how you could tell that he said it himself. He's a fan of the animated series and things like that, and the films, and so he doesn't really know the comics like that, which is interesting for a comic book artist. But I totally respect it because it brings a fresh pair of eyes. Nate Moore, producer from Marvel, spoke a bit about this recently, where he doesn't tend to get filmmakers who are fans of the comics because he needs filmmakers to bring a new respect to source material, but bring a fresh perspective.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm saying all that to say that as I've got older, and this is the first time I've spoken about this, definitely publicly, but even to some of my friends, as I got older and I had my own, challenges with mental health and all the rest of that, I normally do, and I go to the things that I like. When you're in a spot, you try and find your happy place, your comfort spot, and so on and so forth. And I found reading really helpful. And so, now I still like to read a lot because it you can get zoned in. But then I went back to comics, and I would go through the comics that I had in my collection, and I reread Daredevil Born Again. And I was like, oh, okay, this is dope. And I got it. Got it. Like, and then I think I've always liked Daredevil, because I grew up in the 90s, and I was a fan of Ninja Turtles, and I didn't realize that the connection. So I was like, okay. So I was like, oh, he's a blind ninja. This is cool. But so I had read Born Again years before that, and I had it in my collection, obviously. And I was like, okay. But then when I was going through that, I read Born Again, and I was like, the strength of that I personally think, and I don't care, write in the comments, do whatever you're going to do, come at me, whatever you want to do. I don't care. I'm not a fan. I'm not afraid of any kind of discourse. I don't mind if you think I'm wrong. I don't have to be right about everything. I just know how I feel about things.
Yeah.
I think that Born Again is possibly, for me, it's probably the greatest superhero story ever told.
That's good. It is. I can agree with you.
Because
I can agree with you.
And the reason why it's so amazing, and this is why the point that I'm trying to make is that I am 100% my favorite superhero is Daredevil. He just is. And I know I started with Batman, and the Batman Daredevil are very similar, but it's like 100% Daredevil. And the reason why it's 100% Daredevil is not because of the Netflix show, because I was a fan before that, but because the most interesting aspect of Daredevil is Matt Murdock.
That's
Do you know what I mean? Like some people like the whole. I'm going to get controversial here, but people are like, Bruce Wayne is the shell, Batman's the real person, and some people like Batman more like Bruce Wayne. Side note, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. I don't think Batman's the real person and Bruce Wayne's the fake. I think the real person is who Bruce is in the cave with Alfred. Because that's the guy who can put on the mask and be the Beast and be the Vengeance and be the Knight and be all that stuff. And then Bruce is the other shell, like he's the playboy billionaire kind of thing. But Bruce in the cave is where he can be Bruce Wayne. Is where he can be a son to Alfred. He can be a father to Damien and a surrogate father to Dick and Jason and Tim and Cassandra and Steph and all those people. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the real. Anyway, but my point is that you're gonna have to edit the hell out of this, by the way, because I'm rambling like a fool.
I don't do edits, dude. I don't do it.
Okay, right. I'm trying to. But yeah, so for me, it's like Matt, like Daredevil was 100% my favorite character, and then as I started reading more of the character, it's just like, oh, I get it. Yeah, working class kid, raised Catholic. Catholic guilt is real. It's just all the other things, all the other things that kind of come with that character. And I was like, yeah. So even though I'm a DC guy and I read more DC comics than I do Marvel, Daredevil is my dude. And I was even having a conversation. I lent Rob Ayling, a writer director who directed me in Living Crime Alley. I lent him Born Again.
Yeah.
Because I said to him, you need to read this book.
You need to read
it. And the reason why I lent it to him, he doesn't know this, but the reason why I lent it to him is because we had a conversation about Daredevil and why I like Daredevil and so on and so forth. And it's the resilience that Batman has as well, but at the same time, it's different because what they did in the Netflix show, and because they needed to, because it's a visual medium, they showed Matt Murdock being physically like durable, like he was able to take hit after hit after hit after hit and keep moving. He was like Rocky. Do you know what I mean? He was, and you see him cut and all the rest of that. And so because they needed to for that visual medium, they made it about his guts and his toughness.
Yeah, that's right.
But when you read the comics, the thing that is tough about Matt Murdock is his mind, is his brain. That's the thing that makes him the man without fear. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's a beautiful little page that I think Joe Quesada wrote and drew, and Jimmy Palmiotti did for Marvel 1000. And it's Daredevil on a rooftop talking to a guy with a camera, and the guy with the camera before the story starts is telling him about the moniker of the man without fear. And he's saying how that's funny. And he's like, and then the guy's like, why is that funny? And he basically, in short, is saying, the reason why I do what I do and I'm so careful with how I do things is because I'm always afraid. And I think as a human, there's something that really resonates to me where it's like, and I really came back to it, and this is why I know that he's 100% my favorite comic character, because even during the pandemic, there were so many uncertain things. And for me as a comic book fan, it was that thing of like, I refuse to choose fear. I refuse to choose fear. And don't get me wrong, fear will creep in and it will have its many manifestations.
That's right.
But it's not about not feeling fear. It's about overcoming it. And that's why, that's why he is the man without fear, because he lives with it and he chooses for it not to be like overwhelm him. And I just thought that was dope. So yes, this is another ramble to say that even though I really like DC, Daredevil was my favorite character.
That's amazing. Amazing. Listen, it's never ramble, dude. It is never ramble. We see it as great content, inspiring, motivating, hearing your perspective from that character, because most characters will compare Daredevil to Batman and the resilience and the rest of it, but sheer willpower, both of them have it, but on different levels. And that's just me coming from my background in comic books. They both have it in a different manner. And amazing, absolutely amazing.
Not to get too political, just to add another thing as well. And as I got older, and again, I love Batman. I really do. But even watching the Matt Reeves one, and this is not a diss on the film. It's just at the core of the character. As a working class black man from an inner city, I'm from London, so it's like I kind of, as I got older, I kind of had a real problem with a rich guy going out and beating up poor people.
No, I can totally agree with you on that one.
But a poor person beating up another poor person, I was cool with that. Because Matt Murdock is from Hell's Kitchen, you know what I mean? Not nice bougie Hell's Kitchen.
No, exactly.
Hell's Kitchen when it was Hell's Kitchen, you know what I mean?
No, exactly. I mean, it's really important to see comic books and narrative like that coming up, because you don't get that perspective, and some people won't ever see that. I did a recent podcast with a friend of mine, and the power of representation with what Black Panther and what Wakanda Forever has done. When somebody comes out of the blue and say, "Hey man, Kibbs, you looking like Namor, bro." He's Aztec Mexican, I'm Bangladeshi descent. It's like, I still take that as a compliment because it's a brown person on the screen. So it's important to share different, for the podcast anyway, and for the listeners out there, that the perspectives that you get, I don't do it to offend anybody. It's just a different perspective, and everybody has their own say and opinions. And to be honest, Vincent, our comments are always clean and grateful. I'll show you some of the comments that we get on the podcast, which is absolutely amazing. And if people do jump in, and I don't have to have a battle, man. Thanks to the listeners.
Of course, people are entitled to their opinion. Like,
exactly,
I don't mind that people have an opinion for me about what the things I say, and I'm not trying to be controversial here. I don't mind if people have an opinion, but then
of course,
the same time, you can't expect me to care about every opinion. Like, that's just don't like. Okay, it's just it is what it is. Like, not everybody's gonna like everything. Like,
we're not the same. That's the main thing. We're all connected. We're all connected. But we're not the same. But we could be civil about it. We could have conversations.
Very
you know what I mean? And that's what I took from Black Panther. World leaders are looking to kill each other by the throats. Where Black Panther Wakanda Forever, so that what, if I show a bit of mercy, we can make an alliance. We can work together.
Yeah, 100%. And that is really important, because ultimately we are just, we are just kind of everybody's trying to coexist, and people do have their own little bubbles and all the rest of that. So yeah, man. But you're talking about different perspectives and representation. This is why I did Crime Alley.
Yeah,
because I first read Crime Alley as just a script, and I was like, this is beautiful. This is amazing. And this is way before there was any kind of idea of it being made. It was just a script, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is lovely, and it
Yeah,
showed a Gotham that we don't see.
that's
We
right.
show, you know, what I wanted to. So when Rob did say that he was going to do it, I was like, yeah, I'll happily put myself on tape. I think I might have got those things mixed up. I think I said, if you ever make it, I'll put myself on tape.
Yeah.
And then he kind of decided he was going to make it, and then I put myself on tape. But one of the things was that is like, you don't see those people of the people of Gotham like that. In a sense, you don't see the single father who's down on his luck trying to feed his kid, who's in the worst area of Gotham City, the most poverty-stricken, deprived area of Gotham City, where every other week or every other month, or literally, like, who knows what the timeline is, there's a terrorist attack on their city, where literally life is being lost all the time in the most horrific ways. You don't see what toll that takes on people. You don't, do people on the level of the father, who's the character I played in the film, do they even register that? Or are they just spending their time trying to survive day to day? And it's like, so when I read that script, I was like, I 100% want to play that character, because I care about that guy. You know what I mean? Yes, and he makes some really bad decisions. But as we were talking about before, in regards to how people are raised, or the environment, or generational kind of patterns, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, when you're, there's studies on it. When you're from a certain socioeconomical background, and you look around, you see what your options are, and sometimes,
Exactly.
and the way I saw the father, like, me and Rob had a conversation about this on, like, when we were filming the film. It's like, when you see that, this is the first time he's ever done anything like this. Don't get me wrong, he may know people that do this kind of thing all the time. They may be his family, they may be his best friends,
That's right.
they may be his next door neighbor. But for the father, this is the extreme he's gone to, because his daughter needs to eat. Do you know what I mean? She needs shoes to go to school in. You know what I mean? Like, real things. I don't have kids, so it's like, but I have nieces and nephews. But I'm also a human being and understand. I'm also a human being from a certain kind of background, and I understand what it's like to not have.
No, of course.
But then, you know what I mean? And the need for my mum and dad, my sister, my cousin, my whoever, that needs to provide for people is real. So yeah.
No, it is. Even me becoming a father, I learned that, that I'd do anything for that kid, anything.
Yeah.
And hands
Yeah.
down, if it comes to a difficult position in my lifetime, if I have to do something, then it's choices. I know it's bad choices, and I don't advise anybody to go through that. There's always help, and there's if you don't have an option, I suppose it's very difficult when you
What
don't
if you
have an
don't
option
feel
to.
you have an option?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't feel you have an option.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I think sometimes, again, where we kind of sell ourselves short as human is when we don't have empathy for others, when we're kind of like, well, actually, yes, he should have done this and all this, but actually, but when your back's against the wall, you're not thinking about, sometimes you're not thinking about the most logical thing.
No.
Sometimes you're literally, it's instinctual. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Vincent, I've kept you long enough, dude, and you've got a busy evening ahead of you, man. But just to let the people know, where can they find you, dude? And he's got a great collection of stuff he's done, guys. So I'll put the descriptions down below. But where can we find you on the social networks, bro?
So you can find me on Twitter and on Instagram now I've changed it recently, so hopefully I got this right. It's Vincent underscore Jerome underscore.
Cool.
Or if it's not that, it's Vincent underscore. No, sorry, it's at underscore Vincent underscore Jerome. One of the two, man. One of the two.
So anyway, guys, I'm going to have it in the description below because he changed it recently. So I'll put the right one down below. But yes, please go follow the journey. Amazing, amazing, amazing catalog of things that he's doing at the moment. More to come as well. When does Waterloo Road come out officially?
Okay. I can't say the exact date because the BBC...
Coming soon.
BBC would jump through this window right now and karate chop me in the face. So it's going to be January. It's going to be early 2023.
Cool.
And January.
Exclusives, guys. I love it. I love it when
early
I get the scoop on it.
2023 and January. Okay, guys. So that's all I'm saying. If you look at those two sentences, you might be able to figure out a rough time,
there we go.
A rough date, even. So yeah,
I've got a riddle for you guys. Try and work it out. Dude, massive thank you for coming onto the show, man. I know it was last minute, but have a awesome time tonight, man. Congratulations again on this. And no, honestly, thank you for the time. I'm always grateful for people to jump on and share moments with me. So I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me, man. You're always so open and generous of spirit and again, the reason why I've been able to ramble like an idiot for as long as I have is because there's a level of comfort, man. So thank you so much, and I hope to come back on the show, on the pod.
We do, because you have actually a really good knowledge of some of the books that have come out recently and in the past. So I think we need to jump into some episodes and pull out some books and kind of do a little deep dive. Because I think I've got some ideas. But what I'll do, I'll drop you a message and we'll go from there. But
yeah, man, please do. Then we can really get into it. Because
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think the listeners would love that. The listeners would love that. Deep dives. Yeah. Deep dives is always great. But we could pick a book and we just can go. You know what? I think I'm gonna do it now. I'm gonna pre-jump this, and I think we jump into Born Again, dude. I think we go do a little panel description, and we'll go through the pages
I'm gonna have to bring tissues for that one, boy.
I love it.
Tears of sorrow, tears of lots, man. Like that's okay.
Awesome. We do that.
I see it as a challenge.
Yes, awesome. I'll give you a time scale, dude. But if I don't get to speak to you, man, listen, man, have a wonderful time tonight. Happy Christmas and an awesome New Year, and then we'll connect definitely.